Hey y'all. We got our forging done. We're gonna grind. We're gonna refine these a little bit. You know, every process of the forging, the grinding, the finishing is kind of like life. You know, we just start off as raw material, and through pretty much a violent process, I think you'd agree, hopefully we are allowing ourselves to be forged into something better and finished and refined and polished. And that's the process that we're taking right now. So we're going to grind a little bit. Once we've done that, then we're going to start the heat treating process, which is very boring, but it makes pretty colors. So hopefully you'll watch.
It's all about pretty colors.
Yeah, pretty colors. That's why I do this thing. All right. You can move this wherever you want, okay? So we'll run it a little faster. Now the back here, you just want to make it, I was going to do something else, but if it looks like an arc, give it a little arc. We'll do from here, the widest point out, and then we'll figure out what to do back there, okay?
So what are we doing right here now?
Yeah, just a nice swoop straight to the point. Nothing crazy. Just even that line out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. A little more.
A little more? Is that right here?
Just a nice, like a...
Do I do this part or no?
Yeah, all the way. Oh, just go to here. Just to the, like, the highest part. Just start there. Yeah. Just make that a nice, like this part right here, most. That's it.
Here?
That's the area.
Yeah.
I gave you a dull bill. That was wrong.
You just wanted me not to chop myself up too quickly. She's trying to load the bases. Like,
Sorry.
that's a raw deal.
I
You got
won't
a
do it
guy,
again.
first time guy, and you're like, hey man, I'm gonna make sure I look way better than him.
Alright. So what I was that area. So this little pump, you can kind of see it. You take a little because it's going like this instead of bump and so
Yep.
and we just want an arc, very subtle arc.
Not straight,
That's
but
the
just
high
like a
spot right
little
there.
bit of a belly to it.
Yeah, just a hair, not much. But that's the high spot. I'll take that part off.
Looks about right there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, just a little bumpiness. Just a little bump. There it is. Good. All right,
Okay.
now you have to figure out what to do with the back part. So my typical style is to make that raised clip. It's just because I like it.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that. We can do anything we want. So let's draw it in to see if we like it. If we don't like it, I said we just make it more smoothed out, more streamlined instead of putting that on. I like it because also 57 Chevys and those fish hooks, you know, those Maori style fish hooks.
Yeah.
I always thought those things look great, so that's why I like the style.
And I would think probably even if you're going to use like a baton with it too, it kind of almost hooks that in if you had to whack it through a tree or something.
Yeah, we don't baton.
No, you just hack.
You don't have to baton. If you have a little knife, you can baton.
Right.
So get into it, and then I'll help you really refine it.
Okay.
And what you should do, you're running this grinder, let a little bit of belt hang over.
Okay.
And that way you can work it like that. You know what I'm saying? Just let the grinder do the work. You don't have to push it hard. You don't have to muscle it or nothing. Just let it eat away as it does. Back a little further.
Okay.
Back a little bit, bring it up a little more.
Okay, got it. All right. You just change the balance of it.
Now all that will smooth out.
Very cool.
That makes sense?
Makes sense.
So as we keep going, so that looks cool.
Yeah.
So now we have, you know, this is like the sweet spot on this thing. So when you cut into stuff, it's going to eat in there really good.
There's boogers here.
Oh, what? Well, I usually, when I go to finer grits, I'll wear a mask.
Yeah.
But with these coarser ones, I'm just like,
Yeah.
it ain't that big. It's good iron. You know, iron's good for your system.
Yeah, I feel great right now.
All right.
Oxygen level's huge.
Okay, let's see. So what I'm going to do is, I don't recommend doing this because it's dangerous and it's stupid. Okay? But here's what.
Well, without further ado. What effective?
The reason is if you can't hold it down good enough, if it pops up, it'll grab it and suck it in there with your hand too. If you torque it one way or the other, it'll blow the thing out. I shouldn't have done that. We want this to be the apex right here. We don't want to grind that point off. So you want to just start right back here. And then basically you're going to take that lump
Moving
off.
that off.
It may be better to draw it with this. And again, all these lines are just guides. This isn't like you must take it to that line. Just a little bit of that off. So it's a nice arc. Like I call this the booty.
Got it.
So the booty is like the pommel on a saddle.
Right.
Or you call it the horn on a saddle, not the pommel, but it's like the horn on a saddle. So it's just subtle, like a booty. It's a word. I didn't make it
Get
up.
the booty.
Using
Knife booty.
And you can get on here and just go near. All right.
Knife booty. Let's
Knife
do it.
booty. Now, next part is let's let's smooth out the back,
Okay.
and so that we can start working on the inside. And we want to make sure we don't take off too much on here. We want it to be perfect.
Okay.
If you wanted to grab it, it's like it's grabbing me back. That feels great. So here's where our lines are going to roll. Imagine an S curve. So here's the S, here's an arc, and here's a swoop.
Got it.
It's a subtle swoop, but this bump,
Got it.
we want to take that off,
Yep.
and maybe just a little bit of this smooth out. That's it. But always take the high spots off first. So take that off first, and then this is a nice flowing line.
Then we'll
right
drop
here.
it back down here a little bit and
Yeah,
then come back up.
you're gonna go. You don't worry about this curve. So you can start like right here, and you're just gonna come in. You can hang over some belt here, swoop. So you got a little bit of a swoop. We'll refine this even more when we get on this wheel. We start shaping the handle. We'll get that perfect little arc in it.
Cool.
All right.
Third part. I like it.
All right. So all the forging we did, that's getting our shape. And I mean, everything we've done so far is basically the layers because it's going to look cool, the forging so we can get the shape we want. Now the real critical part is the beginning of the heat treat, which we started one cycle yesterday. So basically we did a thermal cycle, which is kind of a normalizing. I hate to really say that it is a normalizing, but we got it about 1600 degrees, pull it out, let it cool down.
Okay.
All right, that's just basically beginning to relax the steel. Now we're going to normalize this 3 times. And what that's going to do is give us a fine, even, uniform grain structure in this steel. And if we were to harden it and break it, it'd look like glass, and that's what we want. Also, we have some things that we need to straighten out. Like in your knife, I'm noticing it has, and mine is too, mine's bent right here, and there's a little bit of cupping in it. It's a lot easier to see now because we've got our profile, you know, we cleaned all those lines, and we're pretty uniform in our thickness, you know. It's like on the other ones, we had thick and thin spots, but now we're pretty uniform on the thickness. Mine's a little wonky too. So what we're gonna do is, when we pull them out and they're 1500 degrees, it's a perfect temperature to straighten, bend the blades over, get them flattened back out. Yeah, we could have probably done that yesterday, but it's one of those things I've chased it a bit. Before I normalize, after normalizing, I don't have to chase it. It'll go there and stay there. Got it. So what I do, I got these stainless steel pins. And this company is kind of neat. It's the first one I've ever seen where they just hang in there. Okay. And that's hot. So we're gonna hang them from the stainless pins.
Why do you use stainless?
It doesn't oxidize as fast. If I was using carbon pin, it would decarb really fast.
Got it.
The stainless just doesn't decarb as fast. What's cool is I'm starting to have to look closer at them to see which one's which. That means
you heard that, didn't you?
I like the shape you made. All right, so I'm gonna hang this one is mine.
Yep.
I'm gonna hang that one in the back, and then this one is yours. This will be the last time. And that hole is a little bigger than a 1/4 inch, so hanging it in the back.
Canadian measurements or?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Big enough to let the pin go in and pop out.
So it's only just that hole that we just put in is only for this process. It's not used for the handle or anything.
No, it's not used for the handle or anything. And this is the part where we get to philosophize or do something else because it's kind of boring. So it'll plummet. The temperature's going to drop. Probably.
Okay, because you just introduced the colder steel to it.
Yeah, and so they'll come back up. They'll go up above 15 a little bit, and then they'll settle. I usually do this the first one once it hits 15 and stabilizes. I hold it for about 6 to 7 minutes.
Okay, so is the steel also 1500 as well at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It'll look all the same color and stuff.
Cool.
And the whole purpose is when we're forging and we're grinding, a lot of stress being introduced into this steel. You know, we have temperatures ranging from 2,000 degrees all the way to about 900 degrees while we're forging. So there's a lot of stresses. They're all fighting each other, and the structure inside is uneven. You know, we have big and small grain. Somebody told me this thing one time when I was learning how to forge, and they would say they were cold forging it, kind of, and they said they were edge packing or grain packing. I'm gonna say why that doesn't make sense to me, and I'm not trying to be weird. It would be like if I could take a 1-inch cube of steel, forge it down into a 1/2-inch cube of steel, and it still weigh the same.
Right.
So you can't do that. Now, you can make the grain finer, but this is the most accurate way to do it. Some people say that you can make it finer by forging. There is a hypothesis. It's called recrystallization. It's written in a peer-reviewed paper by Verthoven. The idea is that while it's hot and you're forging it, boom, the grain refines. It will refine and recrystallize. I don't know if that's true. It's very difficult to be able to see that or cut it, test it, take micrographs. It can be done. I just don't have the equipment to do it. So that's why at this point in my view of bladesmithing, it's a hypothesis.
Got it.
So I know that this works. This is tested, proven, works every single time. 1,500 degrees. And a lot of times people go, well, I do 16, 15, 14, 75. Cool. You want to do that? Great. It'll work just fine. I don't see the necessity to do it when I know that 15, 15, 15 works.
It just works.
It works. It works great. The results are knives that will cut into this steel. They'll deform. I chopped this all up with a knife that I threw in the corner over there. And I got a little bit of chipping. I got a little bit of wrinkling, but this is not what the knife is intended to do. It was intended to be an outdoors woods knife, camp knife, cutting wood. Hardest thing I would be cutting would be through bone or antler.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take the knife and cut steel, even though it would. Great test, but I don't need it to.
Yeah, it's kind of the number one no-no is to not try to cut metal with your knife.
That's
basically.
Right. Don't do it.
Or stick it in the ground.
Yeah, I had customers, and they want to always like, they cut a brick. Oh, I was cutting steel rods. That's really cool. I was like, okay. I mean, if that's what you want to cut, good. I'm glad it holds up to it, but I didn't design it to cut that.
Sure.
Or prying. Like if somebody takes my knives and they start prying stuff really hard, it's got a fine point, and they break it off, that's you. That's not me.
Yeah.
I'll fix it, but I don't give it the spa treatment for free if you do dumb stuff with it. If you've had a knife for years and you want to send it back in, you want me to tune it up, I'm happy to tune it up. I'll give it the spa. I'll just call it spa treatment. But if you abuse it and you treat it like crap, I'm like, that's on you. I'm definitely sending a bill back.
Yeah, you can't crash your car into stuff and just wonder why it didn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I got this 911, and I paid $250,000 for it, and I'm spinning around corners. The tires wore out,
Yeah, I hit these small pine trees, and I got the bumpers dented.
The bumpers
it's weird.
So that's what happens.
Yeah, we get that in the weightlifting equipment world too. You'd be amazed how many people take 315 and just dump because I was like, what are you doing that for? It's no
I broke
need.
the floor and it
it's weird. I got scratched up. I'm like, it's metal. You drop metal on metal. Makes sense. So, that's cool, man. So how long does that take? So it's getting the speed.
We're back on the way up. We're 1428. This is like painting a board and watching it dry.
Of course.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Now's a good time to get water.
Yeah, perfect.
Like on the blade, don't dump the pen yet. You can dump it now.
Okay.
But what I want to do is I want to get it straight.
Okay.
It's kind of straight.
Mm-hmm.
And you use this and a hammer to really get right on the money here. So this is over. Don't like this. Better. I'm just trying to find where am I crooked and how crooked am I.
Yeah.
Gotta have the right background so I can see where the edge is. Right there. So this is all good. Down here, I got like a squiggle, like right in here. So there's that blade handle junction is just a little weird.
Right. Does it get twisted a little bit?
Yeah. All right, that's good. All right, I'm gonna drop that back in.
Okay.
Pull yours out and check it.
All right. So that was one cycle that that would be, is that one cycle? So it's
Yeah.
already cooled down.
Now I want to make sure. Well, I'm not gonna drop it yet because it's still too hot. So
Okay.
it's once it gets below 400,
Okay.
I'll drop it back in.
Yeah, because I was wondering how much you had to have it go back down to actually create a cycle.
Yeah, cycle is dropping below 400. So once
Okay.
it's below 400, good. I can go back in.
Right. So we actually have to a delta of 1100 degrees. We have to drop it. It's a bunch.
That's a lot. Ooh, that's warm.
Drop your. You still drop your pin, or you just pull it out?
Drop it or pull it out. Prefer to drop it out. All right, now, and then we have some stuff here.
Yeah, and that handle needs to come that way a little bit.
Yep.
I did it.
Yep.
Cool. Should I hand check it now?
It would hot fit.
So we're normalizing it right now, or
Normalizing,
okay,
yeah.
it's not a. This is a heat treat, but
This is the beginning of heat treating. So if you look at heat treating as a big umbrella,
yeah,
and there's many things underneath. A lot of times people think heat treat is just hardening and tempering. And before I knew any better, I would, I'd forge, but I'd forge to lighter and lighter and lighter temperatures, smoothing and planishing, and then I would harden and temper. And I didn't know nothing about this part.
yeah,
But quickly I learned that this was one of the keys I was missing, probably 10 blades in. And I was like, man, there's something that I'm missing. So another knife maker said, are you normalizing? I'm like, no. I was like, that's why you're getting that, because I was getting these terrible warping and stuff. And back then, I'd get a warp, I'd just throw the blade over and start over again. The most important parts about any product is what you can't see. And I don't want to call this a product, but essentially at the end of the, if I sell it, it is. It's an item I'm making.
right,
And the item needs to perform. And if it doesn't perform, then it's not any good. It just looks like a knife. It doesn't act like a knife.
right.
So the parts that we can't see is what we're working on now.
Got it. It's like watching steel cool.
Yeah, which isn't very cool. It's fine. I'm going to go back in with this.
Got it.
Now, I may hammer on this one a little bit, and we may hammer on yours a little bit, because I want to make sure our cross section is triangular. I don't want that cup to be in there, and sometimes it happens from hammering on the edge to refine the profile, or banging on it too much one side or the other on that.
Got it.
540. Just too hot to lick. Don't taste some of it.
Where this is really interesting to me, coming from the athletic world, is everything is about the process. So you have the fundamentals, simplistic fundamentals. We say it's simple, but it's not easy. So what I'm finding here is there's some there's some principles that you follow in the whole process. You get the process right, the knife turns out great. And so there's nothing necessarily magical or super ninja stuff. That's kind of later on. But you stick to the principles, and that's what Jason's teaching me, is the principles and going through the process and making sure everything is right. And then we could kind of deviate off of that as need be. But right now we're coming up with an amazing looking knife. Like, it's kind of shocking that I'm able to do this the first time with such good tutelage, but the process and everything is the whole key of it.
Come over here. It's hot enough. There we go. Better. Now, here's the thing. When you've normalized it, you can bang on them all you want cold. It ain't going to hurt them. But if you just forge, pull out the forge and start banging on them, you run a high risk of busting the knife. Here's my weird spot right here. Does this process make any sense?
Yeah.
All right. This is where we start getting into stranger territory. And it's like, a lot of this stuff, just like anything, doing it and the experience of doing it overcomes the weirdness of it.
Well, of course.
So
yeah, it kind of lines things up. So the normalizing, so we forged it, we heated it, we cooled it just through work, and then so normalizing it now makes it more durable and puts the grains in a better position.
Yeah, pretty much. It's refining this internal structure. It's making it even, fine, and uniform. If you look under the spectrum on a chart, like here's the temperatures, and this is what the structure inside the steel is looking at certain temperatures, and the finest we can get is right in between 1600, 1475 area.
Right.
And you can hold it for 10 hours, it won't grow. Like back in the old days when I first learned, they were like, as soon as you get into that, you got to quench it, otherwise the grain will grow. But we were using a torch and just, and then quench it with a rosebud tip on it. Those are some of the best knives ever made.